Hi everyone, I'm Haylin. I'm a product manager at a late stage startup in Southeast Asia. I came from a generalist background with almost zero technical knowledge at all. And yet today, I'm managing one of the most technically complex products in my company. How did I get here? Well, it all started with a resume. I think a lot of people don't realize how important it is for your resume to be PM ready. What I mean by PM ready is when you are able to convey your experiences and story in PM language, such that you are able to convince your hiring manager that you have what it takes to be a successful PM. I am super excited today because my friend Shannon has kindly agreed to share her resume with us. She has a great background in UX design from the United States and is looking to pivot into product management in Southeast Asia. Of course, it takes incredible courage for Shannon to receive feedback in such a public way, so I also really hope that you'll be gentle and constructive with your comments as well. Okay everyone, I've got Shannon's resume with me right now, and we're going to start annotating. I've removed Shannon's personal details to protect her privacy. Okay, let's take a look. From the very top, it looks really clean and polished. Very clear points and segmentation. Really great job, Shannon. And honestly, the font looks like something out of an academic paper, don't you think so? Something like was submitted in the scientific journals. Those things that you read in school, really, really cool. I think she probably used the latex format, so that is a great choice. Honestly, if I'm the hiring manager, I'm going to take a really, really serious look at this one. Okay, Shannon says that she's a UX designer. She included her contact details, her LinkedIn, and she also included her portfolio, which is awesome because it makes it super easy for the hiring manager to find out about Shannon if he or she is interested too. Okay, but the thing is that Shannon, she's applying for a product manager role. So if you put a UX designer, you might want to take a further step of signaling your relevance to product and product management. So maybe she can cancel this and she can put in like product designer instead. Having the word product in your title makes all the difference. And another way, perhaps you could rewrite it as UX designer with product management experience. That would be great as well. Okay, now we're moving on to her education. Okay, Shannon is a smart cookie. She has a postgrad Masters of Science degree from a well-known university, top 9 in the US for that matter. For her college, she did a Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology. So it seems like she has moved into more scientific and specialized degrees as she went up her academic journey. So what I would first recommend is for her to actually remove this, number X by US News and World Reports because, okay, firstly, if the school is already the top 9 schools in the US, most probably it will be well known. So you don't really need to mention this in your resume. Secondly, it doesn't tell us anything about Shannon. This resume is all about Shannon and her product experiences. And you definitely do not want to waste your valuable space, especially at the top of your resume, on something that is not directly related to you or your product experience. So I strongly recommend to remove this. In its place, however, I would recommend that Shannon include things like her grades, like the courses that she has taken that are relevant to product management. For example, in terms of data analysis or any coding courses that she has taken, negotiation, business fundamentals, for example, that would be really helpful to signal her academic foundations in product management as well. And since she's very academic already, by including her grades and accomplishments, that would really help. Okay, same thing for her education as well, to include these things, grades and courses as well. Okay, it's also awesome that she's included her thesis because it shows that she's somebody who's also able to flourish in academic discipline. Okay, I realized that Shannon's most recent experience is actually her work experience. So what I would recommend is to switch the work experience up and move the education down, because you want to put your most recent experience at the very top. So unless you are a fresh grad, where your most recent experience is from school, then you should put your education up. But if not, if you're already working for a few years, definitely put your work experience at the very top. If you're finding this useful so far, please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and comment down below so Shannon can know what are some of the other tips and tricks that you have for Shannon to improve her resume. Now we're going to move into the work experience part, and I want you to remember 3 things when writing about experiences. Number 1 is outcome over output. Number 2 is metrics. Number 3 is the product development stage. Okay, now back to the resume. Shannon has very focused experiences as a UX designer, from research all the way to design. So that's awesome. I can also see that she has included a lot of numbers to quantify her impact, which is fantastic. Just going to underline these. Yep. But remember what we said about highlighting our outcomes over output? I think over here, she mentioned a lot about what she did, but eventually what was the true outcome? I think she had some over here, like 90% of the project timeline goals. But at the end of the day, you want to link to metrics. So that brings us to our second point on metrics. What metrics are we talking about here? The R metrics, or rather we call them the pirate metrics, because pirates always go like R, right? So it stands for A, stands for acquisition, and then the other A is activation, and then we have retention, referrals, and revenue. It would be great when you quantify your impact to link it to these metrics, because they are the metrics that drive user behavior. So for example, I see reducing the churn rates. This one is related to retention. So if Shannon can include the actual impact of how much actually did the churn rate get reduced, that would be incredibly impressive. Also, for example, this part on meeting 90% of the project timeline goals, how does this impact revenue? For example, by you meeting 90% of the timeline goal, did it help to save the company money? Because if not, the project would have been delayed. So if it had been delayed, the company would spend an extra like $30,000. But because you helped to keep it within the timeline, you saved the company $30,000. So this is something, an estimation that you can add into your resume that would really boost your impact. There is no problem with us talking about, our output, influencing product managers, doing our surveys, interviewing, but you always want to keep in mind, what is the actual job scope of a product manager? Product manager oversees the entire product development stage and cycle. So in your resume, when you're writing about your outputs, try to link your actions that you've done to the product development stage. So for example, over here in the big tech company, Shannon, she surveyed, she assessed behavior and attitudes, she interviewed. All of these are actually related to the discovery and user research stage, right? Which is at the front part of the product development cycle. So she might want to include keywords like these so that the hiring manager has a clear sense of which part Shannon has the most experience in. So of course, in her role as a UX designer, she is most involved in user research, designing experiments. So this part on designing experiments is great because it could potentially highlight her data analytics skills. Data analytics skills. which is something that I don't really see in the rest of her experiences, but it's something that's very important to a product manager. I think that since Shannon is really experienced in the front part of the product development stage, which are discovery, user research, and prototyping, she is a little bit lacking in the later part, which is the code development, testing, and launch. So it would be helpful if she can supplement her experiences through, let's say, a side project where she sees the product end to end from the discovery to the launch, and then talk a little bit about that in her resume so that it's more well balanced. And secondly, on supplementing her data analytics skills, she can try to pick up SQL, which is the structured query language I talked about in the previous video on technical skills. So if you haven't watched that, do pop over and take a look. This will really help her in supplementing her data analytics skills and making her a more well-rounded individual. So in summary, my main comments are outcome over output. Always link your outcome to the AARRR metrics. And also keep in mind the product development stages. When you're writing about your outputs, try to link it to a certain product development stage. And lastly, if you feel that you are slightly lacking in certain parts of the product development stage, you might want to supplement it by doing a side project or taking an additional course so that you have a more well-balanced and holistic skill set that will make you ready to take on any challenges as a product manager. Great job, Shannon. With a little bit of refinement, I think you are good to go for a PM application. See you next week.